Hello, Internet, and thank you very much for tuning into the Cloud Native FM podcast. You are watching exclusive live coverage of Cloud Native Wisdom episode. We actually did some of the episode back in the days about some of the cloud native technologies because we know the cloud native ecosystem is quite gigantic and it's moving in a very rapid space, especially with the advent of AI. And what this cloud native wisdom episode is to give you the little bit of glimpses of some of the skepticism I have on my YouTube channel, what I'm thinking around some of the latest trend, and also some of the skepticism. One of my wonderful guests will be joining me in a second, will be letting you know. So once again, hello Internet, and welcome back to the Cloud Native Wisdom episode 20. We're able to record shorter version of this on the same channel. You can go back and watch some of the short videos on that. I think we covered some of the wonderful topic. We covered some of the outages we have back in the days on AWS, global outage, Cloudflare outage, and bunch of very cool topic. I assume you would definitely like those if you watch those as well. So tonight we are doing a fast moving idea first live stream through the cloud native and AI topics people are actually taking care a lot these days. We will be talking about hybrid AI, economic primitives, abstraction versus ownership, one of my favorite topic, runtime security, in-place pod resizing, WebAssembly, is it a cool topic? Please do let me know. Agent governance, geography of future data center. Oh, that's very cool. We will also spend about 5 minutes per topic on bunch of the cloud native wisdom episode. Pull out the practical lessons and close each segment with one thing you can apply in platform engineering, cloud, or AI operation. But without any going further, let me get back to my wonderful guest who is always there with me on the live stream, Richard Simon from Cloud Therapist YouTube channel. Richard, you are live once again, and it's my duty to make you busy all the time.
Yes, it is indeed your absolute duty to do that, and you do keep me busy. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hope you're all good. Welcome everybody's Cloud FM subscribers and viewers, and Cloud Therapist channel subscribers and viewers as well. Great pleasure to be with you. I think if you need, you were talking about skepticism in your intro, saying, I think if you need skepticism, we need the skeptical techie to be on the
Oh,
next
wow,
episode.
absolutely.
He's the real skeptic on
Absolutely.
technology.
We already
Great pleasure to be with you. And we've got, I think we picked on 3 topics for this particular episode so that we went through. So hopefully we'll rattle through that for you today. And then, we've got more live streams, as you said, coming up, and some more interesting topics that we've picked up. And we'll maybe remind you of the next episode's topics towards the end as well.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And reminded of, we actually already bring the skeptical Techie on our YouTube channel. And if you people missing what we're talking about, you go back and watch the KubeCon key takeaways live stream or KubeCon afterthought conference. That has been, we actually covered 2 hours. And skeptical, our another friend from the another galaxy, he bring out all of the some of the rest of the things into the table as well. But I invited Richard Simon today because I have some skepticism, and I think we do need to talk about some of the innovation happening in this space as well. So, Richard, be ready because one of the topic I'm actually asking you to drill through is, I think this is your favorite one, the Lenovo's SAS material. I don't
Mm.
know, do not know about the pronunciation of that. You know about it, Richard? SAS, what
Yes.
SAS mean?
Yes, it's the Consumer Electronics Show, which is an annual event basically for all of the kind of the consumer products. It's absolutely massive. It's held in Vegas, the same place, I think, as AWS reInvent and various other conferences that happen in, I think, in the same conference center or conference centers over in Vegas. So yes, absolutely huge. It's usually at the beginning of the year. I think it's just before Mobile World Congress, which happens in, is that one in Spain, I think, or in Italy? I can't remember where. So MWC, the Mobile World Congress, is another one. But CES, yes, is held in the US. And then Lenovo have their own sort of presentation. I don't know what really the others do. I suspect they all do their own presentations as well. And they held it at the Sphere, which is that kind of new, multimedia uh, arena where you can have, I think, music concerts and various other things. And they obviously did their own tech world, as I think they call it, which they made lots of announcements in terms of products and technologies as well. So yeah, Consumer Electronics Show, and we covered. I think there was like a 2-hour sort of keynote from them, from the CEO of Lenovo, and Yanking Yang, I think, or YY, as he's known to his friends and to his employees. So I was an employee. Don't forget, I used to work for Lenovo for a while. So did about 18 months at Lenovo. So I'm kind of relatively know the company fairly well. But yeah, some interesting stuff. I don't think there was anything really surprising in terms of the technology. I think there was some interesting stuff around products. Maybe there was some interest in a couple of the innovative sort of laptop or notebook products that they announced. I'm not going to really focus on that too much. Not really into the sort of the consumer side of it, but more the technology, and maybe just touch on the enterprise side of it a little bit, because that has things like obviously AI included as part of that. Was there anything that you picked up on, saying what was kind of your view? Any points from you, and then maybe come back to me, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. You're on mute at the moment, I'm afraid, so I can't hear you.
Word most famous thing is to tell people when you are muted. Thank you very much for telling me, Richard. So I think
I think that will haunt us for the rest of our lives.
Oh my God!
Being muted and talking.
Oh
where's the AI which picks up on that and says, "Oh, hang on, Sam is muted, so I've recorded the last 10 seconds, so I'll unmute him, play it back, and catch up."
And also, I think there's
the AI for that. That's what I want from StreamYard and Zoom and all these other people.
One other problem is that if somebody watching us and I'm actually keep talking and being not able to aware that I'm muted, then some people on the internet might say this is an AI generated video. That's another fear I have these days as well.
Yes.
But speaking of the topic, Richard, thank you very much for bringing my attention into this event for Consumer Electronics Show from the Lenovo. Thank you very much for telling me the organization as well. So I think, because we need to expand my criteria and to see what's happening in some of the ecosystem, the AI. What are the skepticism we have? What are the other companies like Lenovo or some of the other mobile vendors or the laptop vendors or the device vendors are doing in the AI space? We keep hearing in the cloud native ecosystem and bunch of the other things we always cover on the YouTube channel. But this is a new thing, actually. I think is we need to do more of these as well. But I think what I'm able to look at some of the talk and watch some of the talks today, I think earlier in my morning today, is I think one of the things I'm hearing is that people are saying the signal around AI is not just present. Now, AI is now becoming the organizing principles for personal devices. This is what the rephrase I hear from one of the talks from the keynote is saying the AI is becoming the organizing principle for personal devices, and this attracted me a lot. And also they talk about in the conference enterprise infrastructure and even agentic native wearables. That's I do not literally know what that term or the technology means.
If you can figure that out, let me know.
Oh my God, absolutely. This is one
I don't think even Lenovo know what that means.
Oh my God! Yes, that is true. I think this is the missing terminology in a lot of
I
the
think
AI
I think I
dictionary.
think that statement was AI generated.
Oh my God! But still, once again, we tell people what it is agentic native variables. That's quite interesting. I
Yeah.
think one of the other things that I heard from some of the conference, because it's held in 2026 of January, and as of April, when I watched this, they talk about the Lenovo Stack World at CES 2026 present hybrid AI, a personal AI super agent, uh, and AI PC, smartphone, enterprise AI infrastructure, all presented as part of single story about productivity and orchestration across ecosystem. This is what we typically all of the news reporting is telling us about the event. But what I find out while actually walking through some of the content, the message is that AI is moving from a feature to a platform layer. So Richard, this is, I need your thoughts on that. Is this the correct statement when you watch these shows, and because you are the one who actually physically present sometime on these kind of conferences, and you watch very closely from that, one of the key messaging from the conference is that AI is moving from a feature to a platform layer. How much of this is correct today?
I think it's yeah, it is. I think to a degree, and I think this will be more on the kind of the consumer side of products. Maybe not just the consumer side of products, but maybe the end user products.
Hmm.
So end users, when they're kind of using a phone or a tablet or a notebook computer or whatever it is, they're not really kind of concerned with the enterprise side, the server side of things. That's kind of taken care of by whoever the vendor is that's kind of giving you that platform, application, service, or whatever it is that you're using. Now, so yes, I think it's kind of more from the user perspective and the sort of the experience of the user. Now, Lenovo is in a very unique position. I think we have to kind of set the scene a little bit, in that they're one of the few companies that now, they didn't used to be, but now have both a consumer side of their business. So, selling things like notebook computers and Motorola phones, which they own. They own Motorola. Um, selling tablets, and I own one of their tablets. Very nice. I enjoy using one of their tablets. And the other side is the enterprise side. Now, the Enterprise Server Group, ESG, which I think is still their name, I'm not sure. ESG is the remnant of the x86 server business that came out of IBM. So IBM divested that part of their business, the Enterprise Server Group, which was called Systems Technology Group, or STG, I believe. I'm trying to remember all the three-letter acronyms now. So it was a while back for me. It's about 10 years ago now. So they divested that business to Lenovo in well, the last year was 2014, so 2015 essentially. So Systems and Technology Group, STG, became Enterprise Server Group, ESG, at least at that time. Like I said, I don't know what Lenovo calls themselves these days, or that part of the business call themselves, but that's what it was called when I joined it. That was in 2015, so we kicked off as ESG in 2015. So, like I said, that was when IBM sold off their x86 server business to Lenovo, much in the same way that I think probably about a decade before, they had done the same thing for their ThinkPad business, their mobile business. So all of the mobile devices, namely the ThinkPad business, the ThinkPad notebooks, was divested to Lenovo. And then 10 years later, in 2015, the enterprise server business, the x86 server business was also divested to Lenovo. So Lenovo at that point became not just a consumer brand of laptops and gaming laptops and desktops and whatever else they used to do, but also a enterprise server business. So I was part of the ESG, the Enterprise Server Group, for about 18 months or so, and then I kind of left and did more software stuff with the likes of SUSE and Mirantis. So they are, as a vendor, so you can now see what that means as a vendor. They have both sides of the table, if you like, the consumer side, the end user side, as well as the enterprise, the server side. Okay, so client and server, they do both essentially. Now, if you compare that with HP, for example, so you now have HP Enterprise, which is essentially the business side, and then you have HP Inc., which is the consumer and kind of the client products. So again, printers and notebooks and things like that. You look at Acer, they literally kind of do one product. They don't really do any server stuff. You look at ASUS, again, they don't do any server stuff. All the other vendors in that kind of consumer Intel notebook, Intel desktop space, they're not this, they're not the same as Lenovo. So I think Lenovo for positive or negative reasons are, whichever you look at it, they're kind of in that unique position almost. I think in that they do both sides, the client side and then the enterprise or the server side as well. So like I said, they did this kind of Tech World thing, 2-hour event. I think they do it every year. I'm not sure. I remember watching last year's one, but I certainly kind of was interested in watching it this year. So they have integrated a lot more of the technology, and they wheeled out Jensen Huang, the NVIDIA CEO. So he talked about augmenting, complementing, and maximizing human potential. That was a quote from YY, the chairman and CEO of Lenovo. Jensen Huang talked about the agentic AI and stuff like that as well. So it's kind of deeply complementary about everything. AI transitioning and is deeply this sort of AI transition is deeply personal, was another quote from YY as well. One size doesn't fit all. So every sort of organization, every individual is unique. That was another point from YY as well. And then they kind of went on to the CTO, the guy called Tolga, I think. I can't remember the full name, but he said, it was an interesting quote. He said, "I'm supposed to pop the hood and give you a kind of a technical sort of overview of things." But he said, but this is CES. So I don't know what he meant by that. That was a slightly strange comment because, CES is about technology and so on, but I don't know to what kind of, maybe he was trying to keep it nice and light and sort of, it's a high level sort of technology discussion. So his kind of presentation was, I felt, largely superfluous. There was a lot of stuff that he mentioned which is not really the product. It was kind of AI is your co-host, AI super agent. That he introduced a Tech World super agent, so that was specific for this Tech World presentation. He said you need a universe of models, some local, some as sort of on a server side, which is what we were just talking about now, client and server. And then some products kind of in the pocket, some on the world stage, and they will route seamlessly. They will send you a query depending on what they need. So if they can do it locally, they'll process it locally, and if they can't, they'll, I don't know, shunt it back to either a Lenovo model, hopefully not in China, or OpenAI or something, or Anthropic, who knows. So there was a lot of this kind of discussion, AI co-host, and things like the intelligent model orchestration, AI agent core. He mentioned the agent core, which is the kind of the super agent brain, that they've developed. So this has things like memory, context. It's personal to you. It remembers your history and what you've talked to it before. So really no different from kind of what OpenAI and the others are essentially doing now. And then he went on to things like intelligent model orchestration, as we said, and then agent core and multi-agent collaboration. Now, none of these are products. And I'm sitting there waiting, going, so what is the product? Are these the products? Because this is all tech stuff. And it's kind of all background things I don't necessarily need to know about. Or the consumer who's using a Motorola phone or, a Lenovo, a Lenovo tablet, like I do. Here's my Lenovo tablet. So just to prove that I do have a Lenovo tablet, what is the cell there? What is the product? And then he eventually got to it, and it was called something called Kira, Qira. And I was thinking about when you were saying intelligent model orchestration, agent core, multi-agent collaboration, and I'm saying, yeah, but where's the Fred and Susan? Give me what is the product going to be called? I know you're going to give it a name, so what is it called? And then he eventually came up with it, which was Kira. That's what they announced. So I know what they're trying to do with that. I kind of appreciate, that approach. The only concern that I had here was the fact that this was clearly developed before OpenClaw. So now OpenClaw's come sort of in, February, a month later after these announcements. And I think it's kind of probably destroyed all of these, sort of proprietary platforms that people like Lenovo have spent millions, if not billions of dollars researching and developing over the last God knows how long. So now OpenClaw's just come across and just slapped everybody across the face. And said you don't need those. You don't need Kira. Make me the Kira, sort of the core of your Kira platform. So yeah, this was kind of, I think it's kind of going in the same direction. It's all sort of agents, and they talked about later on. They talked about agentic and whatever is going to be in all their products. That was another thing. So they kind of talked about that. So he said, yeah, this is kind of it's all kind of part of the products, and other people demonstrated other things like phones and wearables, and somebody had like a bracelet or a brooch or something that you could put, like women can put on their thing, or a necklace or whatever. They can all be kind of these are all the wearables, I think, that you were mentioning earlier. That's fine. And he was, again, the demos later on showed things like the bracelet will record you. The bracelet will, it can record you. It can, play back everything. It can remind you, give you a summary, which is not too different from existing tools that are non-AI. They're just able to do that anyway. There's lots of them out there at the moment that you can get. My concern with that is that if this thing is if Kira is going to be integrated into every Lenovo product, first of all, what happened to Copilot? Because Copilot is the standard, for Windows machines. So, what are they going to do with Copilot? There was a mention of it later on in the keynote, but it was very vague. It was kind of, Kira will work with our Copilot. Right? How are they going to be on the? Are they both going to be on the machine? Do I have to switch one off and turn the other one on? I don't know. But that was kind of, they wheeled out somebody from Microsoft, and you kind of mentioned that earlier. But my point is, that was one point for me. So where's Kira going to sit with Copilot? And then the other thing was, if somebody's kind of, got a brooch or glasses or something, and they're recording my conversation with them, I don't necessarily want them to do that. And if they're doing that in a stealth manner, so we're at the, we're having a so-called, water cooler, chat, or the kitchen, kitchen sort of conversation, the tea and coffee, making a tea and coffee in the office kitchen, and I'm having a conversation with someone, I don't want them to be recording that offline conversation. That's supposed to be, one-to-one private conversation, offline conversation. I don't want them to have their glasses on or the brooch on their, on their top, and it's recording everything I'm saying to them, right? So again, this kind of, I think, creates all sorts of privacy concerns. I think for me, if your phone is switched on constantly and doing this, it's not something I want to do, and it's certainly not something I want others to be doing to me.
Yes, totally fine. I think that there's the questions. I have tons of question here, Richard. I do not know when is where, what to think about it, but my skepticism is exploding right now because it's
Yeah.
starting to feel like it's like back in the day, like when there's a lot of the vendors is competing with others set of same player in the game. They
Mm.
can't differentiate between them sometime on the operating systems layer, sometime on the hardware layer as well. Can we started to feel like now we have a third layer where the AI is another layer where every vendor is trying to differentiate themselves in regards to the AI. If that's the case, I believe consumer might be on the hard hit because they're starting to, oh, can I use Lenovo Kira versus Microsoft Copilot, or can I use Siri? Can I use AWS Assistant? So which one is the right one? And sometimes the problem happen is what how is things working, because if you have a Windows operating system, the Copilot has already been integrated. Now the Lenovo Kira, is it a default one, or is it a wrapper one? Let's say you have another AWS. You're using AWS as a cloud provider on that operating system, and it has its own AI assistant agent. So what will be happening? Like how these things kind of interoperate with each other? It's kind of a chaos for the consumer at the end of the day. I think it has good opinionated approach. It might be Lenovo knows better than Microsoft how they actually pin out all their services combined. But in operating system, Microsoft has the edge because they know operating system better than the Lenovo one. So it's kind of a confusing. Like I think, but for me, I'm starting to think like is a now we tell our children's, or here's a operating system, here's a hardware, and now how the AI is different is another functionality
Yeah.
within the machine, and people will start to paying for that price, being able to be a super intelligent machine or not.
Absolutely. I agree. I think with all of the above, I have no answers for all of the above, unfortunately. I mean, like I said, Microsoft got wheeled out, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll." I mean, it was literally a sentence. The guy from Microsoft said, "Oh yeah, and Copilot will cooperate with Kira." Okay, how
Oh,
and when, and do you switch one off and switch the other one on, or do you? If I talk to Kira, does that mean Copilot knows what I'm doing, and vice versa? I don't know. And then what if I introduce my own OpenClaw on the same machine? Does that mean I'm going to? Can I use Kira as well, or can I just switch off Kira completely? I mean, this is kind of thinking that people spun up last year about AI agents. This 2025 kind of was the year of AI agents, or at least the talking about agents, not necessarily doing anything with AI agents. We're still not doing anything with AI agents really meaningfully, apart from maybe OpenClaw stuff. So, Lenovo, I think, has taken this idea. They've got the concept, and then they've run off with it and spent, like I said, millions, if not billions of dollars researching and and constructing this thing called Kira. I don't know what it's based on. I have no idea if it's based on Copilot, if it's got OpenAI behind it, or it's a local model that they can they run. I don't know, but I can tell you that anybody else doing this will either now use OpenClaw, or they'll just say, you know what, I think Copilot, let's just let Microsoft develop it for us. We don't really need to do this.
oh,
We'll just OEM whatever Microsoft provides in Windows. We don't need to spend the billions that Lenovo has has spent into researching Kira or developing Kira.
I think this is,
So
remember
yeah,
back,
I don't know how that's going to really
remember
work
back
together.
in, yes, absolutely. Remember back in the day we started, I think the live stream, the KubeCon live stream, we talking about this idea of segregation, like all of the tools actually being added somewhere else. Is this another thing we started to take a look at it, because all of this new AI functionality is really starting to get disappearing in a different layer. Oh, I
Mm,
can do better in the image to voice recognition. I can do better in the research thing. I can do better
mm,
in some other advancement. But I need that one layer that can fill in all these functionality as a one-stop shop for me, rather than the three different layer.
mm,
But unfortunately, I think uh, we see where this shift has to be moved. I don't want, if I want to purchase a new system, I'm talking too seriously thinking about, oh, I can use this laptop with a super intelligent AI system. And then, oh my God, now there's something else available for me. Why do I care about it? So I think from the consumer part, I think somebody has to advocate them which machine they're gonna next buy.
I mean, it got to a point, I think, in the demo, in the later demos that they
Hmm.
were showing, when it got to the um, the the phones or the laptops or whatever they were kind of demonstrating it on. It got to a point where the I can't remember who it was one of the ladies that you had on the web page that you were just showing now. Um, and she said something like, and then I can tell Kira to uh, summarize, the conversation I just had, and then I can tell it to check my email and then put something in my calendar to remind me. And then I just thought, so, but you, so if you're gonna just be talking to your device like that, then I want it to be the size of a button. I don't really need a laptop then, or a phone to do it with, right? I just need like your device to be like a ring, like a ring on my finger, or on
Typically.
my wristwatch or something, because I don't really need all that. If I'm just talking to it and it sorts out all my stuff for me, I never need to look at the screen again.
Oh
If it says,
yes.
"Oh, Saim wants you to come on his live stream," I'll say, "Okay, can you look into my calendar? Let's do it now, Saim. Let's do a live demo.
Oh
Can you
wow.
look
Yes.
into my Can you look into my calendar? Find a good time for me to live stream with Saim later on this week, and then suggest that to him, please. Thank you." There you go. I just spoke to Kira, and Kira just did. Now, I didn't need a screen for that. I didn't need to email you or Slack you or WhatsApp you or anything. I just did it right
Oh,
there and then, right? So, I mean, if we're getting to that point, what's the point of me buying ThinkPads then, or Motorola phones, or anything? Really, there's no need for that. So,
it's
Lenovo,
totally.
they could have
I
just
think.
cut their keynote by like, I don't know, an hour and a half, and just did like 30 minutes on Kira and said, "That's it. That's our future. Good night."
Oh, absolutely. I think there's an. I think the question here once again is for me, like I try to think how the people are talking about it, because I think the question is important. Will customer is starting to paying for these services in a critical way? That's the question. I believe it's $1 million question.
Yeah,
Are the
I mean, they,
customers?
they didn't mention about Kira being something that actually is like a subscription. So I
Hmm.
presume, I don't know. I presume it's free. It comes with the Lenovo products. But Lenovo
Okay.
has shipped stuff like this, controversial stuff like
Hmm.
this in the past. They've shipped, servicing applications. They've shipped survey application. They've shipped a whole lot of junk basically on
Hmm.
their machines, both the consumer and I think maybe the ThinkPad as well. I can't remember which ones, but I have read consumer magazines in the past where a lot of their software, their bloatware that they add on top of Windows, nobody wants that,
Oh.
right? Everybody complains about that in those consumer magazines, consumer PC magazines, and all they want is how do I uninstall it? How do I get rid of this? right? So everything from like, have you registered your machine for the extra warranty type of application to the one that's selling you, I don't know, printers or something, whatever, right? Third party stuff, bloatware that gets added, or the 6 months free, McAfee antivirus, or all that kind of stuff. People want to get rid of that. They don't want that on their machines. They don't want their models, machines spying on them and things like that. So how are you going to convince people like that to kind of use something like Kira? They're a lot of people are weary of things like Copilot. When Microsoft announced that, I know I'm going to forget the name. There was a recall option, I think, wasn't it, in Windows 11, where it basically recorded everything that you did, and then you could like go back to a timestamp, and restore from there or something. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was called recall or something. And as far as I know, recall's either still not shipped, or it's shipped but it's disabled on Windows 11. Right, okay. Because nobody wants their machine to be spying on them and recording all the stuff, even though they promise it's all local, to the machine, right? So now Kira comes along, and you ask it a question, and it goes, "Oh, that's a bit beyond me. Let me talk to my servers in China for a minute and get you the answer." It's like, no, can't do that. Not allowed to do that. We shouldn't be doing that. So and you've got Copilot already. So what's the point? And Copilot is coming up with all the agent facilities and capabilities, just like OpenAI is doing with ChatGPT, just like Anthropic is doing with all of their extensions, and so on. So there's really no need for yet another agent, yet another AI model to bring. Now, how many models am I going to run on my machine? I got Copilot, I got Kira, and I've got OpenClaw now, right? So am I running 3 at least on my machine?
And I think the question here is about of all of the customer base, how many of these are really the critical my customers to do that for me as well? Because I think there's a use case for that as well. I think that a lot of the companies missing of adding the use case for that as well. I think, but it's kind of interesting space, Richard. It's kind of I think
it is. But I think
next time you go into some of the conference there's another question to ask people.
I definitely have questions for Lenovo now. Whenever I see them next.
How much have you cared about it?
Enterprises, corporates, companies, organizations will disable all this stuff by default, because they don't introduce stuff just because it's in Windows, or they don't introduce it just because they buy ThinkPads or HP Elite books or whatever HP calls their notebook computers. So they don't do that. They have a corporate image. Corporate, the group policy will come down on stuff like this, like a ton of bricks. All of this stuff will be disabled, auto by default. So if they were to buy ThinkPads or Legion or whatever, Legion ones are more for gaming. The Legion Pro, I think, models are more for gaming, but like ThinkPads. So if you put Kira into ThinkPads, future models of the ThinkPads, Lenovo ThinkPads, that will all get disabled by corporate. Nobody in corporates, just accepts the consumer image of Windows, or the OEM image of Windows. They build their own. They only include the stuff that they want to include. They ship it with their copy of Office or whatever it is that they they have a subscription for, and their tools that are specific for their company. I don't know, an SAP client or a Salesforce client or whatever it is that they use. They ship it with their own image. That image is always locked down. It's always with their antivirus, always with their firewall rules, always with their group policy, template, etc. Right? And they do their own updates. They do their own patching. They do their own service packs. They do not do it like when Microsoft says to do it. Or like my machine, if it comes up with, it says, Windows 11 2H26 is available. Would you like to upgrade? I'll probably say yes. Okay, sure, go ahead and upgrade, or I'll maybe set it up for the evening to, to do the updates. But that's not how corporate works. Yeah, corporate will probably do it in December 2026 when everybody else
Oh my
has, done the update, worked out all the, kinks in it and problems and whatever, and then corporate will do it. So this sort of stuff is not gonna ship for consumers,
God.
yes, but it's not gonna be for corporates tomorrow. It's just not gonna happen. That's just not how the corporate world really works. So yes, I have a lot of questions for them. Where does it sit with Copilot? When it has to inference back to a big model, not the SLM that's in on the machine, presumably. Where is that? And what happens to my GDPR when that happens? Yeah.
Oh,
And
yes,
stuff
these
like
are the very,
that.
very,
So
very
anyway,
right.
so I don't want to take up too much more because we've got other ones to cover. But there were a couple of interesting points. They wheeled out Intel, they wheeled out AMD, they wheeled out Microsoft, as I said, and obviously Nvidia, as I said at the beginning. And they talked about kind of their, the Motorola Razr Fold, which is a folding phone. It's about time. I think they did a fold. They talked about the Signature, which is kind of the best. I think that's kind of the high end, expensive models of phones. And then my message to them around, the Motorola phones, which I have been a fan of in the past. I don't use them anymore, but I had been a fan of them in the past. And the ThinkPads is, please, Lenovo, do not screw up the ThinkPad, whatever you do. That's my message for Lenovo. Do not screw up the ThinkPad, because I'm a big fan of ThinkPads. And Qualcomm was on there as well, so they talked more about the wearable stuff, of course, and the latest processor. Now, favorite topic for you, Lenovo sponsors F1 racing.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was on there. They talked a little bit about that, and this is where they kind of segued into the enterprise side of things. So again, they talked about the eras of kind of computing, so traditional computing, cloud computing, AI computing, AI training of models on cloud and things like that. Interesting. In a roundabout way, they've confirmed really what we've been, I think, saying for some time now, which is that the AI space is now in the inferencing age. We're now kind of moved into the inferencing side of things. And again, more importantly, that inferencing is potentially going to be either on-prem, which I don't agree with, or on the edge, which I do agree with. So you're either going to do your inferencing on-prem, which I think doesn't really make any sense. It's like, saying, let's just go back to the data center again. Or is going to be on the edge. So you're going to have like edge AI, as well as doing AI inferencing on-prem or co-location or something like that. The important thing about that is that everybody who's building these gigafactories, AI gigafactories, they need to fill them up soon, and they shouldn't be building anymore. Which is, I think, why projects like Stargate has halted production, or construction, I should say. They've OpenAI stopped construction of Stargate. I think Oracle is looking to lend the data center space to Meta, the Facebook guys, because they want to come in as tenants into whatever's been built so far in Stargate. And I think I think partially, at least, the reason. Some of it is just funding, and I think OpenAI is just out of money and run out of money, or other people's money to spend. But the other reason, I think, is because they've realized that for inferencing, you don't need to do that in a gigafactory. You need that local, a lot more local. So whether it's your data center, if your data center is up to that capability, and that's a different question, that's a different discussion point, or at the edge, that kind of edge AI, as I mentioned. So Lenovo introduced with AMD CEO around the Epic CPUs and various other ones. They introduced or they announced the Think System SR675i, which is a bit of a mouthful. I think it looked like a 2U or 3U sized server. It's like on-prems for your data center. Yeah, it's got all the latest GPU, blah, 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 with a sesame seed bun and everything. And it's like, yeah, okay, but who's going to do that? And then the other one was the Helios architecture, again from AMD, I believe. And then this is kind of more, I think, for the edge. So they announced the ThinkEdge SE455i, which looked like a 2U, edge inference, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, great. So there was kind of that kind of announcement, I think, towards the end. And again, they gave you the typical, the typical scenarios. With this product, if you're a local store and if you're doing your grocery shopping and whatever, this product can detect your stocks and then automatically order some new stocks for you, and things like that. And now, that kind of thing is a holy grail for supermarkets, but nobody does it. Everybody kind of chugs along with their old systems, and they kind of do a visual inspection, or maybe they're lucky they get a spreadsheet or something that kind of makes the decisions as to which product to order more of. Now, the thing with that, I think, and that's fine if you can automate that. If that's not automated already, or AI can do that for you, fantastic. But the problem with that, and I know the supply chain there, because when I was at IBM, I worked on a massive supermarket project, and I learned a lot about how supermarkets operate. So each branch, each kind of large supermarket store, or the local stores as they're called in the UK, can they have a bunch of stock. So I don't know, whatever, drinks, food, whatever it is that they're stocking. And then when that runs out from the shelves, when people buy it, they'll just go and stock. They'll take some more from the store, from the back store, and they'll put it on the shelves. And then when they really run out, they'll clearly need to order some more. And then what happens then? A delivery comes along. A lorry or a truck or whatever comes along and delivers the next batch of stock, for that product, because that supermarket has run out of that product. Okay, that's fine. That's kind of the normal supply chain stuff. But you can order as many times as you like of that product as a supermarket, but it's not going to get delivered. So if you I don't know, wake up on a Saturday morning and there's a run on, I don't know, some fizzy drink, some soft drink or something like that, and you're by lunchtime you're out. You've run out of all the stock because, I don't know, they were doing 2-for-1, sort of offer or something like that. If you run out of that fizzy drink by lunchtime, and people are still asking for it, and people coming in saying, "Oh, do you have that offer for that fizzy drink?" And, "Oh, sorry, no, we're out of stock. We've run out of stock." And then then they say, "Okay, so when are you going to have some more later today?" It's like, no, we're not going to have some more later today because my next delivery is tomorrow, or it's in 2 days, or or whatever it is, right? Probably every day. But so my next delivery is tomorrow. It's not. It's not this afternoon, or come back at 2:00 and I'll have some more. No, it's not. So no matter how much, the point I'm trying to get to is, no matter how fantastic your AI, reordering system is, and it detects that you're running out of, fizzy drinks or, chocolate bars that are, on offer, whatever it is, right? No matter how great that is, you're still beholden to the delivery schedule.
Yes, absolutely.
Of that stock. So if the delivery schedule is it's in 2 days' time, you're stuck. You're not going to get any new stock from HQ or whoever does the distribution for you for your supermarket chain, right? So AI can go, oh yeah, you're running out of those those cans of that fizzy drink, but that doesn't mean you're going to get it any sooner or any faster, or you're not going to put it in your consumers' hands, customers' hands any sooner. So that's all great, Lenovo, but that's very naive to kind of put that out as part of a way that AI can solve problems. Yeah, everybody would want that, but it's still beholden to the supply chain. Lastly, they put out even the president of FIFA turned up as well. So he was wearing funnily enough, he was wearing a suit but wearing trainers. I noticed on stage, which looked very odd to me. So anyway, so he was on. He blabbered on about various other things, and it's going to be the greatest World Cup this year, and blah blah blah. The other point that they mentioned was an AI library. So something, I can't remember the guy's name. He talked about an AI library, which is kind of part of their sort of architecture. And this is, I think, a PaaS layer. So basically, I think they're either OEMing a PaaS layer, or they've kind of built their own PaaS layer for people who kind of want to build AI architectures. To be honest, I wouldn't want to get that from Lenovo. I'd want to kind of go and build my own if I know what I'm doing. So, for example, in T-Systems, in the industrial AI cloud that we have, our customers who are already onboarded, they've built their own software stack, basically. They didn't wait for T-Systems. They didn't wait for NVIDIA. They didn't wait for anybody else. They just built their own stuff. So I would not want to go and get that from HPE or Lenovo or IBM or somebody else like that. I'd kind of want to, if I'm going to do it in one of those gigafactories, I want to build it myself. Otherwise, I'll just do it in a public cloud. So, yeah, so that was kind of my points on it. The consumer side, Kira, I'm not convinced with that. I don't know why they really decided to do that when you've got Copilot already. I don't know why they'd want to continue with that now, because now it's been superseded by things like OpenClaw and so on. And I bet you, I think if anybody else does something like Kira, like HP Inc., if they do that, or Acer does that, or somebody, it's going to be based on OpenClaw. Because I don't need to do all that research and spend billions like Lenovo just did. I'll just use OpenClaw to do it.
Absolutely, 100%. Typically, I'm with you on that as well. Yeah. But I think what I'm trying to see from the lens of the developer's angle as well, because if you build out the machine, developers are the heavy user of that machine as well. So my workstation is like this today. Is like I have a VS Code is already been added into my system. I have a Docker running on my system. It's consuming all of the memory and CPU all the time. I have running the browser, the Chrome browser. If I run this, my RAM is gone, and I'm not able to do anything else on my laptop.
Yeah,
and Richard can feel the power of the RAM these days.
Exactly.
As well. And now a bunch of the Kubernetes cluster, now the bunch of the LLM algorithms, bunch of few other things, and now another AI is consuming more of the resource. I'm gone. It's the machine is able to, I do not do anything else on that machine. So I think it's once again, I think you try to innovate in an AI layer, but the volume is a little bit lower for you.
Yeah.
You can do much of the power forensic in that, but the volume is a little bit less for you. Well, we'll see how Lenovo, because I think, Richard, one other I think more and more vendors on the laptop and the mobile devices turn up to do these kind of thing as well in the near future, because I'm starting to feel like in sooner rather than later, this is going to be a very true, like what sort of is a RAM plus storage plus networking capabilities plus operating system and plus AI and plus AI running AI in your local machine is becoming a big thing for rest of us. But as you speak, corporate sector is not into it. Your main customer is not into it. You need to do a bit of wiring and being able to communicate with them what sort of solution they ideally need. But I think we spend a lot of time, but I think it deserves a little bit of attention. So I would add one more topic and then I let you off. Another topic is another one is kind of a confusing, kind of really frustrating for some people, and some of joy for the rest of the people as well. And that is Anthropic economic index, I guess. Richard, we speak about a lot on the AI subject on these channels,
Yeah.
but have you able to go through the Anthropic economic index, because it's add some sort of granularity, the granular lens for understanding AI usage, instead of just asking about the automation versus augmentation. The report introduced five primitives: the task complexity, skill set, purpose, AI autonomy, and success. That is very useful way to think about what AI actually doing in the enterprises. So first, Richard, are you good with the five pillars or primitive they talk about? Task complexity, skill level, purpose, AI autonomy, and success. Do you want to add anything else, or are you happy with these primitive?
Um, I think those are kind of the five core metrics, and they're as good as any right now because we're at such an early stage. And one thing that I think the likes of Anthropic and OpenAI tend to forget, and like a lot of vendors do anyway, is that not everybody's in this space that we're in, and the likes of Anthropic and OpenAI is in the kind of cutting edge, latest stuff, and you and I are kind of talking about you know later stuff and so on. So not everybody's at that point, in their business. Um, so their question on this report is quite extensive, which is always a welcome from Anthropic. They do their homework quite well, and they ask for things like, is artificial intelligence really making people faster at work? What sort of tasks does AI support best? And how might it change the nature of people's occupations? So that I think is, I would probably say you've got three reports there around those three questions. You could probably go and build three different reports based on those questions, especially the last one in terms of changing the nature of people's occupations. And I think these are, like I said, probably too early to be asking these types of questions. Yes, there is things like co-pilots and people are using ChatGPT and whatever, but I think they'll be, if they were, I don't know if they did this as a survey or not, but if they did it as a survey, then it would be quite disappointing. Maybe the answers would be quite disappointing, that most people are talking to chatbots and doing summarizing of PDFs and stuff like that. And a lot of people say, stop doing that, and that's a waste of tokens and what have you. It's still what most people are essentially doing. I mean, I take photos of restaurant menus in Germany because it's in German, and then I ask my Copilot or ChatGPT to translate it to English, and then I can order something. So it's just kind of maybe as far as most people tend to go, that kind of example. So I get where they're coming from. It introduces these, as you said, these kind of economic primitives, the five core metrics around, as you said, complexity, skill, purpose, autonomy, success, to kind of systematically track AI's sort of economic impact. I think they're using real world Claude data, so consumer and enterprise, to move beyond kind of what AI is used for, to kind of how it is used and how well it actually performs. So yes, I kind of just mentioned, I translate a menu or I summarize a PDF. That's kind of the first part of that. What is AI being used for, to how it is used and how well it performs. So the how well it is used, or how it's used, I should say. Well, I mean, that's down to typical interfaces, interactions. So whether it's on a computer or on a phone, or I mean, not many people. I know of one person that talks to ChatGPT. Everybody else types to ChatGPT. I know only one person that actually talks to their phone, ChatGPT on their phone. Not everybody talks to ChatGPT.
Hmm.
So I think that answer's kind of pretty much there. It's through things like Copilot and typing and uploading documents and things like that. How well it performs, I don't know. That's kind of the feedback I would guess that they get. So every time you ask ChatGPT something, there's a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of icon. That you can give, I think, more information as well if you want to provide more feedback. That's also there. I think the overall thing they said, it shows that AI is generally effective, but success declines as the task gets more complex.
Hmm.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's not kind of fantastic at doing everything. I would say that's maybe slightly, even though that might actually come out in their in their metrics. I would say that's slightly unfair because I think in the simple tasks it's quite good. So I don't know why you'd want to just focus on the complexity of that. So yes, I would agree. And what is the percentage of the complexity? I think they didn't necessarily show, like 95% of tasks are simple tasks, and the 5% which are complex are the ones that it's struggling with. They didn't show. I maybe I missed it if it was there already in the chart. Maybe on the report. Maybe I missed it. But I didn't see the split between the general simple task and the more complex tasks. So because that would maybe have that would provide a background to this to this conclusion that generally it's effective, but it declines on complex tasks. So that was the other point. And then it's they found that AI usage is still concentrated on small number of sort of high value tasks. So again, obviously coding related work, that's one of them, which is what I was just saying earlier. We ask simple stuff like, what is the capital of blah blah, or give me the top 5 reasons why I don't know, JFK was assassinated, or whatever, that kind of thing, right? And and I need a recipe for sausages or something. Can you give me a top 3 recipes from BBC website on how to cook sausages or something like that? And that's kind of fairly relative. Or here's a PDF, it's 200 pages long. Can you summarize it for me? Type of request. So those are, I think, the the more simple, I think, tasks there. And yeah, they're kind of I mean, those might be high value. I don't know. It depends on, again, how they rate that. For both the consumer and the business side of those tasks. And
While you're
then
actually Rishi, talking through that, if you look
yes,
at it, it took me ages to
hmm
explore, scroll that content. It is gigantic. The
yeah,
question I asked the Cloud AI, how many live I needed to completely read this document? It's, it's literally so
well,
gigantic. I
so
think one thing is
I did,
good, they added all sort of information there. I
yes.
really admired the wonderful documentation they
Yeah,
had.
like I said, I think they're Anthropic is, like I said, they're very comkomprehensive with their reports, even the
Mhm.
ones that they produced over the last couple of years. I remember the interpretability one, where the models are, being threatened, and then they go off and do rogue things in the background, and so on. The interpretability one, which I think we mentioned at the AWS summit last year, I believe, or the year before.
Oh,
So,
yes.
um, yeah, I think that's kind of all interesting stuff. They also said they introduced their effective AI coverage, so factoring in success rates to better estimate real job impact. So um, and that was again part of kind of the aspect of it. And then the impact or the outcome, they're saying sort of AI is meaningful but uneven, with strong performance in narrow, well-defined tasks rather than broad job replacement. Most current usage reflects augmentation over automation. Humans remain in the loop for higher complexity work. Remember what we talked about, augmentation. Remember, I said
Yes.
to you, AI augments. The agents that are coming out, they augment, right? Unlike,
Mm.
let's say, Copilot or OpenClaw, or now things like Kira, these are everything else is an augmentation of existing platforms. So that's an interesting word that they've picked up on, and that they're using augmentation as well. So augmentation rather than automation, and then humans remain in the loop. Then autonomy remains limited, with AI rarely completing multi-step tasks end to end without guidance and iteration. I really don't understand why they think the result of this would be otherwise, would be something else. The models are where they are. That's how good they are. That's how clever they are right now. And that's as best as we can do. Yeah. I mean, if you ask this of a model developer or a data scientist, going to say, "Hey, look, we're doing our best. We're kind of where we are right now, and that's the best that we can, actually, do." Right. So I don't think that's a. If you get an answer to say, as it says on here, it remains limited, AI rarely completing multi-step tasks. I don't think you can do any better. The technology is where it is. That's as far as it can go right now. And then it says the gap between capability and reliability is a key
Mm.
constraint. AI can attempt many tasks, but consistent success is not always guaranteed. Well, we knew that because it's kind of, it's non-deterministic, right? It's stochastic and all the other, label terms that are used for defining AI and its output. It's not deterministic. It's not a, you know, you're not always going to get the same, type of response for the answer that you're looking for. You'll get the right answer, potentially, or most of the time, but you're not going to necessarily get it answered in the same way, and that's non-deterministic. So yeah, and then I think I concluded that it says, I said that the AI's sort of economic effect is incremental, and task at the task level today. That's kind of where it is. You give it a task, it goes off and does it. I mean, the whole idea with agents and sort of,
Mm.
swarms of agents and agentic AI and so on in the future is to overcome this. So, excuse me, I don't know why Anthropic is kind of even measuring for this right now, or potentially surprised that this is the result. But these primitives do provide a framework to kind of track the, I don't know, the progression toward deeper job level type of disruption. But I think that job level disruption is not here. So even for coding, it's not here. I mean, we saw that from our live stream
Mm.
for KubeCon in Amsterdam recently. We saw that people were talking about AI SREs.
Oh, yes.
I think that's somewhat inaccurate in terms of what it is. I think that's just merely things like, you have an AI agent in your Dynatrace platform, and then you get this recurring problem that Dynatrace is reporting to you, or Datadog is reporting to you, or New Relic. Let's not kind of limit it to just to Dynatrace, but
Mm.
any of these observability platforms will report. I don't know. Let's say a pod keeps crashing or failing in your Kubernetes cluster, and then you
Yes.
say, okay, so I know that I can kind of do a minimum desired, state and blah blah blah, all that kind of thing. But actually, I want to do something else before I have a go at restarting that node or that pod, yeah, or that individual container, whatever the workload is, right? So I want to maybe, I don't know, maybe I want to clear the cache, or I want to delete the temp files, from the storage before I restart that pod. So that kind of when it starts, it's all nice and fresh and whatever. Okay, so for that, I would maybe let's get an agent to do it. So I go through my observability UI and I set off an agent and I say, okay, you see that pod over there? Well, whenever it crashes, tell me about it on Slack. So that's the first thing. I need to know that it's crashed. And then go and delete this temporary folder, all these files that are in this temp folder to kind of clear the cache and whatever it is I'm doing, and then restart that pod.
Oh.
Yeah, or respawn the pod, and then tell me when it's back online again on Slack. Send me another Slack message or WhatsApp message. Okay, so that's like a set of instructions. You've set off the agent to go off and do that. That's like an AI SRE, right? So, and I did that within my observability tool. So why do I need? We go back to the same argument. Why do we need Holmes GPT, right? Or why do I need this AI separate AI agent to go off and do that? Because that AI agent's already in my observability tool, right? So I don't need teleports, AI SRE. I don't need -0's AI SRE, which is the ones that we talked about or talked to, and they talk to us about AI SREs and so on. I don't necessarily need those because that feature is built into my observability tool, at least the future version of my observability tool. If it's not there at the moment. So rather than going off and saying, oh yeah, look at this Holmes GPT, yeah, let's get that installed and get that running. No, give it 6 months, and Dynatrace is going to have it in their platform. Yeah, I don't need to go and buy another product and subscribe and whatever and purchase another license and so on. So I don't know. I just think that kind of stuff will come, and it will come with agents and stuff like that. And Anthropic, I think, is maybe just jumping the gun, as they say here, a little bit. They're kind of maybe a little bit too enthusiastic about their measurements, about their report and metrics here.
Absolutely. I think one thing is, as you two spoke about coding a part as well, I think we already, because I am one of the fan of the big fan of the one of the tooling they have on the coding side. Cloud Code is brilliant. They're doing some, I think in the marketing gap they're brilliant. They're doing some very good job at it. I think on the other side, the Claude AI, that is the rest of the world, beyond the coding style, the rest of the world, we see this trying to be, Claude AI is trying to be the same for the coder and same to be for the everyone is for the rest of the people as well. So they doing a good job as well. But I think one I heard from the Richard, from the CEO of the Anthropic, and we will be discussing this more in the near future because it's a very good topic in the open source umbrella. Like this saying, bunch of the newest feature that Cloud Code has been added in the Cloud Code is developed by Cloud Code itself.
Yeah.
So the Cloud Code is adding feature for the rest of the developer community itself, listening to them, seeing how they're adopting to the changes, how well they're evaluating or adding their skill set to the Cloud, and the Cloud itself behind the scene, updating and adding new feature into it. This is a new topic, all in sense. And I would like
sounds interesting. Yeah.
In the near future, we try to, because we know a lot of the companies, even till today, we need an open source tool, and we need bunch of open source maintainer to back that up. They file an issue, they actually enhance the issue, they develop coding into it, and sooner when the community start pushing into it and they see the adoption happening and the project being graduated, there we have it, the enterprise offering.
Yeah. Just a Purpose Speak 299. Thank you for your comments there, and shout out to you. I appreciate you joining us. I think he makes a couple of interesting points there about coding.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Still have to go back and kind of review the code and things like that. Although there are QA platforms now based on AI, there is review code. I think we were talking about which we might cover actually. I think you said the AWS DevOps agent.
Yes,
might do that in the future, in a future episode. So there is that kind of thing coming in as well, which I think potentially takes the burden off humans to review code that's generated by these models. The other question about whether kind of Anthropic is, I think he said, more secure. I don't know. I think there was a guy, somebody was mentioning on YouTube. There's a guy who jailbreaks every model that comes out within 5 minutes or something. Apparently.
Okay.
So I'm not sure about secure, any more secure. It depends on kind of, I guess, what you mean by secure and where it's running and stuff like that. But yeah, I think all of these is kind of, it's interesting the way that Anthropic has picked up on this. I think there's still some stuff in there which they didn't really seem to indicate very well. Like I said, the usage data, the consumer and enterprise. There was no kind of, I didn't see a ratio for that. I didn't see a ratio for the generally effective and the complex tasks, and so on. So I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's always good to do these. The 5 metrics that they've chosen, the so-called economic primitives. You just call them 5 metrics. I don't know. Why do you want to complicate that? But anyway, as good as any right now, where the technology is. I would, if I was Anthropic, I wouldn't be too surprised about some of the results that they've got from the conclusion, from their reports. Yeah, the models get it wrong sometimes. Well, yeah, they do. That's because where the technology is right now.
Absolutely.
So stop writing reports and go and fix Claude. I would say to Anthropic, that would be my answer. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really too surprised about the outcome of some of the results from the report. So again, Pepper Speak says, I mean, if we put our data
or our data or train model other than OpenAI, I want to just comparative base of Anthropic and OpenAI, especially in securing data.
Yeah,
I think there's a bunch of comparison already exists in the market. I think I remember back in end of 2025, there are some bunch of comparison being out. How the Claude AI and bunch of other 3-4 model is. I think they're run by the OpenAI in itself, and then Anthropic did the same. And I think that the Mistral did the same thing as well. Then the Grok did the same thing, and everybody's telling, "Oh, we are the more scared than other." But still, I think it's a tough model to back that up. I think in the near future, I would like to share collect on thoughts is like in an organization, in a corporate sector, do we feel an urgency where the one sector spun up whose full day job is to look at what sort of model we're adding inside the organization, how much of the feature set we bake into it, the comparison between the different model, and making sure we always have a securer and more right approachable model is actually being integrated within the organizational backyard. Because I think this is starting to becoming a very messier, because your platform team might adopt AWS DevOps agent, and then your development team is using the codex, and your front end team is saying we use the Claude code in itself, and then somebody within the API management layer, they said we use the Microsoft Copilot. So it's difficult. Like I think if we need to spin up an entire new sector whose full job is look at very critically what sort of LLM we are using and what sort of vulnerabilities bake into it. Because remember, back in the container image era, we always care about the vulnerabilities. We started introducing the scanners, and then we added not just added the scanner layer, we added like we need to sign the images. Then there's a new force telling us, well, let's have a software bills of material integrated into it.
Yes, which is why you had things like DevSecOps come in, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I think starting to feel like the LLM approaching in itself, like we need to integrate those balancing check in the place. What's added in the LLM? What's removed in the LLM? Who is standardizing the LLMs? All those kind of categories.
Yes, I think these are all headaches for IT and cloud ops teams. These are
Hmm.
all absolutely headaches for them that they need to really be sorting out. I'd be a little bit concerned, that if a company doesn't have policy and governance around those things already, and a decision, a strategy decision made already. So
Hmm.
if I was to join an ABC, enterprise, um, as a CTO or as a CIO, I'd say, what is your policy on these things? What is the strategy for these things? Are we Copilot on the client? Are we,
Hmm.
um, are we Anthropic? Are we OpenAI? Are we, where what are we doing? Where are we? And how does it fit in? And you and I've again mentioned before, and I've advocated for AI registry and AI agent registry. Remember, I've said that before.
Oh yes,
Um,
absolutely. There's a
I
topic
had,
coming up in the nearest episode. So Richard, we
yeah,
we make sure you are aware of it. There's
yeah.
a
I have seen some. Like I said, I have seen some movements around that, but we'll save that for a future discussion, I think.
absolutely, absolutely. We have because you you added some more topic into it because registry is one of those where you are very much into it, and
Yes.
that's why I actually added a full dedicated news segment that's coming up. I think in tomorrow or sooner we actually have some other topic as well. But I won't take much of your time because those two topic we can speak about for the entire day because we always full of skepticism around those topic as well. Because I think at the end of the day, I think that there's two things I believe is winding up. One on the vendor side is I see there's a rush of being adding the AI without really being know what is the use case of it. This really pisses me off. We speak about the Lenovo part of the Cure AI as well,
Yeah.
but the things is really confusing me. Do we have a use case for this? All of these AI wave, all we are left with.
Well,
Is there
yeah.
any use case we left
That's
with?
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying earlier. I mean, it's nice to have that, but is anybody going to use it and use it to that degree, and not just trust it, but rely on it to that degree? I don't know. And maybe somebody's already invested in, Copilot. Maybe they're paying for the pro version of Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever it is. And now you introduce this Kira thing, and they're
Oh,
saying, all right, so do these two things talk to each other, or I don't know. So what I don't want to end up doing is running essentially a server stack on my notebook computer. Yeah, and by the sounds of things, you're going to need all these AI agents running around on your machine, Kira, Copilot, ChatGPT, and OpenClaw, and what have you. Right? I'm going to need that AI agent registry to run on my notebook. Yeah, because if it's a consumer machine and it's standalone, yeah, I
hmm.
need to run that locally on my on my own notebook. Um, I'm not connected to a corporate network, or this is not my, work machine. So how do I take care of all these agents and make sure they're not screwing up my files, or doing something untoward, to my private data and my children's photos and
Oh
things like
yes,
that.
absolutely.
I have no idea. I've got no idea what the stuff is. And this, like I said, it just goes back to what we were saying about Lenovo, and that sort of that extra bloatware, that they really really need to learn their lesson when it comes to stuff like that.
Oh, absolutely. I hope they listening to us. All I can say this is I hope all they can listening. Another good question, if it's deepened to another question we have from the purpose speak, it deepens totally upon the usage and the mindset of automation. But it's a truth if we don't apply AI now, we will be in the back era. I think that's a fear for the industry right now. Even though we have the huge skepticism around the AI, but everybody fear, are we left behind with it? We need to move on. Is it the right approach? But as you told all the time on the live streams, we need to have a strategic roadmap for this.
Hmm.
I feel like as an
I think
individual,
as an
as an
enterprise,
organization, as an
yeah,
open source communities, everybody lack the strategic wisdom and the strategic roadmap for it.
you definitely need. I mean, as an organization, like I said, you definitely need a strategy around it. You definitely need, uh, governance and rules, of engagement when it comes to how AI is going to be used in your organization. I remember in late 2023, so
Hmm.
that's now almost 3 years ago. I asked one of my best friends, and who was working for a very large financial institute in the UK. As ChatGPT was kind of taking off and people were using it for coding, and it was all over TikTok. It was just gone viral at that point. I think it was the third quarter or fourth quarter, 2023. I asked him. I said, and yes, and uh, AI, shadow AI was being mentioned. As people were kind of using ChatGPT, in a sort of a stealth mode, rogue, whatever on their work stuff, and they were uploading, corporate, um, you know, private information or corporate data onto ChatGPT, unbeknowing kind of, about the GDPR and sort of security concerns around that. Um, so I asked them. I said, have you guys got a policy around ChatGPT? And he said, yes, already locked down. Nobody can type in chatgpt.com and on their browser and go to the website. I thought, yeah, okay. Yes, I know. You guys, the banks and the financial institutes are sort of top of the agenda when it comes to doing GDPR. So they had locked it down, way before. So yeah, so I think everybody else needs to, if they're not doing that, they need to catch up with that. They need to have a strategy. They need to have that AI center of excellence. They need to have a North Star to focus on, a goal that they want to achieve with AI.
Yes, and I think
Lock all this
and
stuff.
the
Lock down all
strategy,
this stuff.
as you always told me, I think the strategy we all mean is that, and I know this quite sure, a lot of the organizations are still having live in the era where integrating AI is a big job for them because their older system is not easy to be integrated with the AI. First,
Mm.
they need to migrate it into the newer system, and then the newer system needed to be having the technologies that has integration with the AI in itself. And then the demand for the skill set is not overlapping within the organization.
Yeah,
Either we have older people with the older set of technologies and the
exactly.
newer people with the newer set of technologies. And
Yes.
that's all we talk about, the strategic roadmap. Rather than you
Yeah.
saying, oh, we're using the newer version of the Codex model, we're using the Sonnet, we're using the Haiku. It doesn't give you any leverage on the business spectrum because you're still missing the strategy.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. So if we just go back to that sort of Lenovo thing. So, last year, like we said, it was the year of AI agents, or at least the hype of AI agents anyway. And then people like Lenovo have latched onto that and gone, oh my God, we can create our own agent, and it can, get the laptop to talk to the phone and phone to the tablet, and then online on a desktop machine, and have everybody can do their recipes, and you can change, you can swap that between all the devices, and can read all your emails, and yeah, let's do that. Let's go and develop it, and let's call it Kira. Why don't we call it Kira with a Q? Okay, and then they've gone and done that, and the problem I think with that is that it's ahead of its time. People need to get used to the idea of having something like ChatGPT. People need to get used to the idea of having a co-pilot app,
Mm.
running on their machine and stuff like that. You can't, although the technology is there and it's possible, that's not even cutting edge. That's kind of bleeding edge sort
Oh,
of
yes.
technology. And who's going to want to kind of be the first to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'll start using Kira today. give me a Motorola phone, give me a ThinkPad, give me a Think desktop, whatever they call it, and I'll start using them all. I'll integrate it all. I'll trust it with my children's photos and with my salary PDF document and all that. Yeah, I wouldn't. So there
Absolutely.
you
Tot-
go.
Totally agree with you. So
Yeah.
thank you very much, Richard, for always adding your insight to the Cloud Native FM viewers because it's very critical. Either somebody has to be the skeptical techie or either somebody need to
Well,
be a
he's not
cloud
here, so we had to
therapist.
do nothing today. we had
Oh,
to share. We had to
absolutely.
share the task between us. So Skeptical Tech is not here today. Shout
Oh,
out to Leo.
absolutely, 100%. All I'm saying within the organization, people need people like skeptical techie or people, on the same time, the people from cloud therapists. So can then put their forces together to build out a strategic map for the organization.
Yes,
Absolutely.
agreed.
So we will
Yeah.
be back, Richard, again tomorrow. We have some more of the topics for the cloud wisdom episode as well. I think in the newer topic, I would definitely cover on the CNCF technical radar because one of the things that confusing me a lot because people are complaining about the heavy usage of the crossplane, but still people are saying no, it's not been my day-to-day usage. Or there's some tool like Argo CD having 4 or 5 stars there. So the technical radar report is in my horizon. And also a bunch of the topic talk about the agent registry is another very cool topic. Microsoft added something, and I think there's few more topic that deserve to pay attention as well. But I will connect back with you to actually give us a very detail-oriented chat on this one. So thank you very much, Richard, for giving us a wonderful insight to this topic. Till then, have a wonderful day and have a wonderful night going forward. Bye bye, everyone.